TGI Friday, and I just thought I'd pop on in and see who's in the house on a Friday day. I wasn't sure I was even going to come on live today. I already got my walk on with Buddy earlier. I went out for kind of a late lunch, early dinner with my dad. He wanted to go into Tampa, but I have a long weekend, so I said, could we do something a little closer? So we went down to a place called Casatina's, and I basically mowed on some guac, the guacamole, the avocado. I have to have it every single day. So I had some guac and some in-house made corn chips, which were delicious. I probably wouldn't have eaten them any other day, but because I was getting to spend time with my dad, I was happy to just be with him. And he ordered the beef fajitas, and whenever you finish, they bring you more tortillas and all that. It smelled amazing. I'm just going to tell you. I have food memories. I may not eat meat. I may not eat dairy and all that stuff. But it smelled like it was probably pretty good. I mean, it smelled good. See, that's the thing. There's all of these, chemical things that go on that when you smell, you get memories. And I've learned that even though I can appreciate the smell because it brings back the memories, that it's not the food I crave, it's the memories, right? How many of you out there have that? Like, you have that memory sensation, but you don't realize you're craving the food is really the craving of the memory. Can you catch that? Can you tune into that inner wisdom and recognize? Thank you. Somebody said something about me not wearing my hair down. I think it was you, Jason. So I decided to take it out of the ponytail and just let my hair down. So yeah, I basically, I can appreciate and look back at all the amazing foods I've eaten over the course of my life. I've eaten in Michelin rated foods, everything from the crappiest of the, do y'all remember, I don't know, this is the block cheese. Like if you had a low income home, or I don't even think it was necessarily a low income home. When I was younger and we lived in Maine, there was like this subsidy thing when there was extra food. We used to get, I'm trying to think all these different things we used to get. My dad would tell you better. Hi Shannon, how are you? It was like this big yellow block cheese, and you could cut commodity. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, darling. I appreciate you. I really appreciate and value all of you. If you get a chance, go ahead and do me a favor. Somebody could share this into the Ridiculously Authentic group, and if you want to share it anywhere else, I appreciate you for that. Ultimately, it was like all these different commodities. We'd get potatoes because we lived in northern Maine. I don't know, there was other stuff. There was probably like meat in a can or something. My dad, like I said, my dad knows better because I just ate the stuff and I didn't know any better. So yeah, I was just appreciating. And so over the years, these memories come up when I smell things. But in the past, I know how easily I could turn around and be drawn into wanting the food and not recognizing it was really just wanting to relive and recapture the past. Sometimes that wasn't necessarily a positive past or experience. It was just the comfort in the familiar. Does anybody out there recognize that in their own lives? That you really might fall into an old pattern because it's just familiar. Not that it's healthy, not that it's good for you, not that it really brought you joy. It just brought you familiarity. So there's comfort even in the discomfort. There's comfort in the knowing something even when you know it's not healthy. There's the self-sabotage because it's more familiar, because there's the fear of the unknown. We go in the opposite direction so often, right? It's really easy to recognize that's unhealthy for me, but you still do it anyway, right? Because it's familiar. That's where the shift in making changes in habits and routines and becoming healthier, overall lifestyle. We're not just talking about food here either. We're talking about all of our behaviors and our patterns and our beliefs. It all starts with listening. If you can listen to the dialogue that's going on in your own brain, the actual thoughts that process, what comes up when you crave all the senses get engaged. It's like all of a sudden something smells familiar, something sounds familiar, something tastes familiar, something even feels familiar, whether it's this feeling or the spidey sense feeling, the intimacy of it. The intimacy is just the awareness, that closeness, right? That bonding sensation. When you can tap into what's really going on from a sensual level, that it's just, oh, that feels familiar. It doesn't always mean it's comfortable in the healthy sense. It's just the familiar comfort, right? So yeah, I used to do that. Okay, I would feel uncomfortable about something, fear would start to rise up, and all of a sudden I'd want to reach for something that was crunchy, crispy, salty, sweet, all these different directions it would take me in my life. And yeah, I went to those extremes. I went to the extremes of recognizing that I need to get out of this discomfort by putting something else in place of it. That's what addiction is. That's how addiction is formed, through the habit of avoiding something that feels uncomfortable by replacing it with something that's more comfortable, but maybe actually just as uncomfortable. Can you relate? Anybody out there? Raise your hand. Please let me know in the comments if you do this. Hi Lane, hi Marlene, how are you? I jumped out in the backyard, decided I'm going to change it up. And so it's really listening to what's really going on up in here. Am I reaching for something because I need it? Or am I reaching for something because, OMG, it's just a distraction? And that's what addiction is. It's keeping us out of fixating and focusing on what we really need to be doing, because maybe we're non-confrontational. We don't want to confront it. We don't want to confront within ourselves what it is that really needs the healing. And I know for myself, for example, and I'm going to use my taxes as an example because this is one that I have been putting off. For years, y'all, I was organized, filed, everything perfect, ordered, lists. I was probably the most obsessive compulsive, organized individual, which is why I am so hypercritical upon myself to even have even the slightest mess or disorder in my household. So if there are certain things that I'm constantly cleaning and doing, at least it's my way of feeling like there's some order in my disorder. So that can also be an addiction in itself. That can take me out of focusing on the taxes and sitting down. And yeah, there's a whole mess of paperwork that I have to sift and sort through because it has piled up. And that's a discomfort. So what do? I'll find ways to get into something else. Or I'll allow somebody else to say, hey, why don't you do this? And then I'll just say, well, there's an excuse because that needs to get done right now, right? And so these are the little things. It can be just as simple, and I know somebody out there had asked about, can you be addicted to a relationship? Of course you can, because we're afraid of trying something new because it's unfamiliar, and we go back to what we've always known. Is it healthy? Well, how would we know unless we step into something outside of what we know? So you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right? But you got to listen to what's going on, into the inner dialogue. You have to recognize, am I being honest with myself and truthful with myself? Am I really seeing the pattern within me? Hi, Darcy and Carolina. Hi, Johanna. The patterns all start up in here. The only reason we choose things is because this thing here, this mind, says, I'm trying to protect you. We don't want to go into unknown territory. Let's just stick with this over here. It might be unhealthy, might not be good for us, but at least we know what we're going to get out of it. And if we know what we're going to get out of it, then we won't be disappointed, because therein lies the control issue. That if I already know, I won't be disappointed because I can expect this to be this way. And see, the expectation, again, is the attachment to thinking you know it to begin with. We don't even know even if that could stay the same constant pattern, but we do it anyway. So the mind, it wants to control every little aspect of our lives because it's really trying to protect us. So it's very endearing. It's got our best interest at heart, but sometimes we need to confront and challenge it and listen to it. And the confrontation needs to happen. Is this true? Is this serving? And what if I did do something differently? The first step to changing a habit or a pattern is you got to be aware of it first. Once you're aware of it, you have to confront it and be honest with yourself. Nobody else can tell you. You are the only one who can make the choice to even own it, claim it, honor it, all that. Just embrace it. Just say, hey, I own it. This is my shit. And I'm going to love on it and say, thank you for serving me. I think it's time to change. And change is like death, because we all got to go through a mourning period, which is a shedding off of the old to allow and embrace something new. Change doesn't happen overnight. It takes what does they say? At least 21 days to get rid of an old habit and to create a new one. Well, in Kundalini Yoga, we do 40 days of a meditation or a Kundalini Kriya practice, breath work. 40 days, you can change your life. And 40 days goes by quickly. So just in case you haven't checked into the 40-day Rad Kundalini Yoga Challenge, hey, I'm challenging you. Try it. Try it for yourself. It's there to serve you. And each one of them is going to be different. But if you really want to change your life, it's going to start within. Nobody's going to tell you how to do it. I can't tell you what's going to work for you unless you're willing and you want to open that up, that dialogue, reach out to me. The reality is life shows up when you're ready to show up to life. And we all deserve the best. So when you're willing to listen to your own stuff and own it, that's where the real change is going to begin. It's easier to listen to other people and say, hey, can I help you? Let me help someone else. Because if I see, there's another distraction and another form of addiction is being the person who's the savior who doesn't even try to save themselves. Anybody else? Been there. If I help everyone else, it'll make me feel better. It'll lift me up. And it'll distract me from recognizing the little things that I could utilize the help of my own to heal in me. Hi, Debbie and Lindsay. So you never know. One day when you show up for yourself, you just might find out your life changes for the better. But of course, it's all going to start with the awareness and the listening. Just listen. Listen to your thoughts. Pay attention to your behaviors. Hi, beautiful Francisco in Kenya. I know it's Kenya, right? This is going to be a very powerful Mercury retrograde. I've been feeling it, and I have to tell you, I'm really excited for this one. And here's why. My own personal reflections and all the stuff I've been listening to and recognizing and sharing with you in my live videos, I feel like Wonder Woman. I feel like Superwoman. Like, I feel like I can soar. Because no matter how bad it gets, as long as I'm listening, I can respond differently, right? I can take my life and just embrace it where I'm at. I'm not going to judge it. I'm just going to allow it. And sometimes it's going to feel uncomfortable, but what's going on for me up in here has been like a huge gift every single day. I wake up and go, it's a new adventure. What is this mind going to get me involved in today? Where are we going to venture? What's going to come up? What am I going to be confronted with today? I went out with my dad for an early dinner, late lunch at Casatina's. I ate some chips and some guacamole and some salsa. Very yummy, by the way. And I was reminding myself about how when something's salty, and I don't add salt to my food often, and when I do, I notice how much it makes me crave more. The more salt you add, and I learned this in Italy, actually. And I've been reading that supposedly, and me and my girlfriend were talking about this the other night, supposedly Himalayan salt is actually not so good for you. I really believe we shouldn't have to put any salt on anything. I know that our bodies don't actually digest salt. Our bodies have to sweat it out. And the best form of salt is something like in celery, right? Celery is one of the most amazing vegetables. And I've got a whole bunch of celery in the refrigerator. And I might just be making some celery soup with avocado again tonight or over this weekend, because it's easier on my digestion. Along with the kimchi that I made, that I gave Dad a big thing of, and I gave him a bunch of kombucha when he left the house. So, hi Kristen, beautiful. So yeah, it's exciting. But when I'm with my dad, I'm noticing every time he softens. And you know, I've spoken a lot about my dad, and I never throw my dad under the bridge. My dad is a very, very, very sensitive man, though he has a very hard exterior. I see my dad much deeper than I can get angry, and I might bitch or whine or complain about him. But I'm going to tell you, I love him so much, and I would go to he's my dad. If someone would ever do or say anything, I'd be the first one to defend my dad. I know neither one of my parents were perfect or are perfect, but none of us are, because perfect is actually an illusion in itself. But I love them so much. And my dad is really, really trying. It's just sometimes it's hard to get out of those old patterns of behavior. I had actually asked him for some help the other day, and he said he couldn't help me. So today I noticed that I didn't expect it, and you know what? I was like, okay, that's all right. I'm not going to get upset. In the past, I might have thrown a little bit of a hissy fit, and he's known me to do that. Mostly because sometimes it is like, pulling teeth to ask. And it takes a lot for me to ask for a lot of help, for any help. So when I come down to the point where I ask, it's like, that's me being vulnerable and showing courage. Because I've always been very like, I'm going to be self-sufficient. You can't help me and you say no, I'll just move on. I'll walk on and I will make it happen. I'll just make it work. I always have in my life. Even if I didn't make it apparent or people didn't know, I know how I've gotten through life. And maybe I'm not doing as well as I feel I should, but that's my own internal dialogue again. I think I'm doing pretty damn well, The biggest and best investment I ever made was, instead of just wasting away the money that I sold my other house, was turning it into the one that I live in now, because I don't have a mortgage payment. And so therefore I don't have to worry about a monthly payment. And not too many people can say that, right? So it was instilled in my life that it was important to have something, and even if this went away, that's not going to hurt. I at least have a home, and I'm very grateful for that. And my dad came through to me today. He actually did not expect him to deliver on what I requested, and he said he couldn't, but when he did, I was really just like, oh, my dad, I didn't expect that. He did it in his way. And see, that's the thing we have to remind ourselves, that everybody has their stuff. And if you have a family member that has a particular behavior, they're not as loving as you'd like them to be. They don't show up the way you want them to. They don't exhibit the kind of, maybe they're a little gruff. Maybe they're a little bit, they have a certain way of communicating. You got to remember, everybody's got this pattern, and it's not something that happens overnight for them to change up. And in my dad's case, for example, I see where he makes an effort. I understand his way of showing he cares, even if it appears to the outsider, geez, he's kind of like, what's that about? To me, I can see the change in such a way that he's at least showing up, right? And what I mean by that is like, well, I got this, don't I? So of course I'm going to help you. Like that kind of tone. But that's because that's how he kind of protects himself from being the vulnerable giver. And that sounds funny, but sometimes that's how people are. They put up a kind of a shield of protection. Even when they're trying to do something they know it is loving, they don't want to look too soft. They got to look a little, a little hard about the way they go about it. And so I do appreciate, and I'm putting this out for everyone, if you have someone in your life, listen a little deeper and a little clearer to those in your life. They may actually be showing you their form of love. And it's not always going to come with that, that gift with a bow. It may not be as nicely wrapped as you'd like it to be, but it's how they deliver it. It could be their way of delivering it. And so if we continue to hold people with the expectation that we know they changed, or we know they cared if they show up looking like this gifted bow, this bow on top of a gift, right? If you can recognize the person is making the effort the way they know how to, that's huge. And so it may not appear to be the kindness way of doing it, but they're doing it. And it takes baby steps for everyone, right? Baby steps in the sense that maybe the next time it's a little softer, or maybe it never is. But you got to at least give them credit and just say thank you and I appreciate you, because they need to be encouraged to continue. And if you respond in such a way that they are basically rejected for their efforts, they'll just go back to their old patterns. So the best way to allow others to show up for you is to stop, breathe, listen, and be more attentive. Engage your senses and truly see them for who they are. When they're showing up to you, whoever they are in your life, see them as they are, as a soul showing up to you, and truly listen a little deeper with your heart, with the intention to hear theirs, because you may find you see something sparked, something deeper, something more blissful that you might not have noticed had you looked through those filters, the belief systems, experiences you've had with them before. And so when you put filters on, you're just seeing them as you've seen them in the past, as opposed to where they're at in the moment. And in families and friends and the people the closest to you, when you're constantly looking at people with your filters, you're never giving them the opportunity to show up to you as a brand new individual or as a changed and evolved person or soul, because we are always changing. We always have an opportunity to give someone else that gift, that honor, that appreciation, to hold space and allow them to be in their authenticity. Otherwise, the inauthentic is seeing them through the filter. And when you see them through the filter, that filter clouds it and it creates that distance barrier, and the growth will never happen on either side. So you have to allow other people to meet you where you're at. And if you're not evolving and allowing them to evolve, then you're never going to see it in each other. Thank you very much, Kenya. I appreciate you. And I witnessed this today, and I just, again, it's listening. It's listening to your own inner wisdom, listening to your own inner dialogue. When you recognize your own stuff, you can be compassionate toward others, and you can hold that for them and allow them to be where they need to evolve, because you're not holding them where you expect them, and I mean from the expectation of what they were or what you want them to be. Meet them where they are. That's nowhere near either one. Neighborhood, Mercury retrograde, just a key here. Keep your time off the roads. Increase in accidents, increase in who knows what. It's all electronical and gadgetry, but this particular Mercury retrograde, people, it's going to bring up your stuff. It's going to bring up what is really going on within you. So this is a really big time to go within and listen. Listen to the dialogue. And then also see how you can use what goes on in you as a compassionate means of listening for others. and holding that for others. Again, when you see people through your filters, how they've been in the past and how you want them to be in the moment, you're going to lose sight of the person who's right in front of you. And you got to give them that honor, that blessing. That's the only way they're going to evolve and meet you where you really wish they would be. And I guarantee when you do, when you hold that space for them, they're going to surprise you and be even better than what you want them to be. But you got to allow them. We all deserve that. It's getting chilly out here. Did you see the bird land up there? It's really quiet back here all of a sudden. I don't know why. So I was out here the other night and I looked up, and up on this wire on the power lines, isn't this cool? All the Spanish moss, the spangum. That's my oak tree. Isn't that gorgeous? It almost looks like kind of glistening, like, it just looks so beautiful in the video tonight. There was a red cardinal, and it's the most beautiful sounding bird when it chirps, and I was just whistling back and forth of it the other night because I was just listening to it sing, and it was so beautiful. And I don't know if any of you all do this, but I like to whistle back, and I'll try to mimic what they do, and they look at me and they're communicating with me, and I think that is the coolest thing. I mean, how amazing is it? We don't speak the same language, but we can play and communicate, because isn't that the nature of the game of life? The nature is we all are here to communicate. Let it be playful. I'm chilly. I'm going to do a little bit of a love spin boom. I'm kind of far back here. I used to build nests out of moss. Ooh, yeah, this Spanish moss. Yeah, you can totally do that. I tend to put it in my compost right now, which is back over there by the wheelbarrow. And I've been pulling over the leaves from the oak tree to help that out. All right, y'all, let's do a love spin boom. It's chilly out here. Boom! I love you. Have an amazing Friday. What?